The first thing to being healthy is not to be hungry, to have something in your pocket that you can substitute, the homemade food. So we need to serve the needs of the people whose health suffered. I was actually impressed that the Minister of Delhi is a woman here, and the amount of women in politics that I met here in India actually inspired me. I think that in Russia, it's not as great. The representation of women in politics is not as great as for men. But in entrepreneurship, we have equal rights. But I just think that women dare less to go into business, than the men.
Hello and a warm welcome to a very special podcast on She Diaries, brought to you by She at Work, a one-stop knowledge hub for women entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs, in association with BRICS CCI WE, the women's empowerment vertical of the BRICS Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I'm your host, Gaurav Chaudhary. In this series, we have some exemplary guests, each one an icon in their field of work, each one an outstanding change maker. Join me in this podcast as we learn to break barriers, negate notions, and strive to steadily create a more equitable, gender-equal society for all. I have with me for this episode Ms. Elena Shifrina, CEO and founder, BioFoodLab, Russia, Central Asian Republic, and the Middle East. Welcome to the show, Elena. Delighted to have you.
Thank you very much, Gaurav. Pleasure to see you.
Elena, what inspired you to start One Bite, and how do you ensure its products stand out in the market?
Well, I saw the American market and I saw the trend for the healthy food there. And I figured out that food business is the same as fashion business.
Mm-hmm.
We have trends, some ingredients become popular than other ingredients. And I wasn't thinking about becoming an entrepreneur until I went to MIT in
Mm-hmm.
Boston. And there I met this my forever hero, Professor Bill Olet.
Mm-hmm.
He's the professor in entrepreneurship. And he told us that entrepreneurship can be taught, And I have never considered myself being an entrepreneur because I was an oil trader before that. And before that, I have been a model, so I have a long career in different fields. And Bill gave me the assurance that I can try and be an entrepreneur. And I has always been struggling with the food since I was a model. At one point I couldn't understand what is healthy for me, what is not healthy for me. And I decided to give myself a chance to find out what the healthy food is. And then I started to produce it in Russia.
Absolutely. Healthy food is something that probably we're in the high noon of healthy food industry. And we see that happening in here in India too. But as you said, food industry is very much like the fashion industry. It catches on trends and there are phases. The food industry, that is why, is a highly competitive industry.
It is.
You have become an entrepreneur in a highly competitive industry. It's also a crowded space, if I may say so, because there is food and there are foods, right? There is food that are cooked at home and there are foods that are processed foods. Now you can see the trend that there's almost like an onslaught against processed food. As a woman entrepreneur, how difficult and what are the challenges you face, and how difficult was it to get into such a highly competitive, crowded industry?
Well, have you read the book about the blue ocean?
Yeah.
So
contested markets.
Yes, so exactly. So I tried to find, or rather create a niche for myself,
Mm-hmm.
for the product. I knew that the product that I started to do, which were like healthy, nutritious bars, it was 13 years ago. There were some in America, but there was not anything of it in Russia. And so I started with that. It was very difficult to convince retailers to take it on board with me. But then when I started to do children's healthy food, healthy snacking, it was interesting because the consumers themselves started to ask, can we give this product to kids? Can we give this product to kids? And then I thought, we can do the whole separate line for children. And we called it Baiti, like this cute name. And so we created the niche for ourselves at the time. I know that you have some healthy food companies here in India as well. And we have something of a blue ocean to bring to this market. So we want for you to guess what it's going to be. And it's fashion business, you know. There are a lot of trends that are changing. So if something is fashionable of demand today, there's something else better tomorrow. So you need to be always on your tiptoes, you know.
And can there be something like a healthy snack? Can snacks be healthy, you think?
For sure. Because first of all, when we get hungry, we eat all sorts of bad things for us, you know. So the first thing to being healthy is not to be hungry, you know, to have something in your pocket that you can substitute, you know, the homemade food. So this is very important. And it's very important, the balance between carbohydrates, fats, you know. You need to have right proteins in your food. So you need to educate yourself on that, and you need to have the brands to whom you can trust.
There's also, as I said, something against the processed industry that is building up in the world. And here we can see that here in India too, that, you know, there's this whole thing, there's this thesis and argument that processed food is bad. But anyone who's in the food market is actually in the processed food market mostly, isn't it? So if processed food is bad for health, how can you actually go about selling something which is processed and healthy too at the same time?
There is nothing better than the home-cooked meal by your mom.
Right.
Or by you, if you're not lazy. Right. So that's for sure. But we don't have always access to that, you know. We're eating on the go, you know, and we need to make the healthy food convenient, accessible, as well as healthy for us. Of course, like, there's nothing can be better than salad with some proteins in it, you know, but you don't have all the time access to that. So if you snacking like for breakfast or in between the meals, you know, if you're taking just one step healthier towards your health, it's better than not doing anything. Because, for example, if you're eating unhealthy sweets, you know, full of sugar, you can substitute them with better alternative desserts, you know. It's already like the first step to something healthy for yourself.
And what's your view about food tech?
Yeah.
Which is growing as an industry, as a segment, and I'm sure it must be growing rapidly in Russia too.
Yes.
How do you see consumer attitude towards food tech changing, and how is it actually having or forcing some kind of a change in the food industry too in the process?
So we need to serve the needs of the people whose health suffered. So now we see the epidemic of diabetes and prediabetes. So one of my companies is very prominent in United Arab Emirates, and now we're going into this Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, you know, and also into USA. And we see that one of the main problems there is diabetes and prediabetes conditions. It's growing amongst adults, the diabetes number 2. In some countries, like 1/4 of the population has diabetes, you know. And in India as well, unfortunately, I saw the statistics before coming here. The number of diabetes, like, it's growing. And in Russia, it's growing, you know. So what we're doing, we had the study made on humans in America, where we developed the snack that actually stabilizes your sugar level and does not the sugar with the low glycemic index foods. Like, you can do like the snacks with the low glycemic properties.
Low glycemic.
Yeah, that they're gonna have ingredients which actually do not increase your sugar, but at the same time they're like sweet and nice to eat and so forth. So we are producing these kind of products for the people with diabetes and pre-diabetes. Unfortunately, it's a little bit more expensive than your regular snack, but it's absolutely necessarily should be done for the people with diabetic and pre-diabetic conditions.
Absolutely. So the attitude towards healthy eating is evolving very rapidly, which is a good thing for the food industry too, isn't it? My final question to you is, in Russia, do you also see, like many other countries, we also see that in India, that the representation of women among as leaders in the corporate world is proportionately lower compared to males, and how can we actually go about addressing this?
I was actually impressed that the Minister of Delhi is woman here, and the amount of women in politics that I met here in India actually inspired me.
Right.
And I think that in Russia, it's not as great.
Right.
The representation of women in politics is not as great as for men. But entrepreneurship, we have equal rights. But I just think that women dare less to go into business, than the men. And I think how we can cure that is by telling stories about successful women who dare one day went into business and believe in themselves, or someone else believed in the family. When I was starting my business, I don't have any entrepreneurial background in my family. And, we were in the Soviets. Business did not exist back then. But at the same time, my grandmother, my mom, my dad, everybody supported me, not with money, but they told me that they believe in me and it's worth more than money. They said, like, go girl, just do it. You have our back. Like, in terms of the kids, I have 2 kids. Like, we will take care of them as well as your spouse.
Great. Thank you so much, Elena, for sharing your deep insight and perspective and taking the time out and dropping by to have this conversation with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That's it from us for this episode. Stay tuned for more.